They were co-writing literary darlings until they hit a plot hole that turned their lives upside down. 3 years ago, Katrina Freeling and Nathan Van Huysen were the brightest literary stars on the horizon, their co-written book topping bestseller lists. But on the heels of their greatest success, they ended their partnership on bad terms, for reasons neither would divulge to the public. They haven't spoken since, and never planned to, except they have one final book due on contract. Facing a crossroads in their personal and professional lives, they're forced to reunite. The last thing they ever thought they'd do again is hole up in the tiny Florida town where they wrote their previous book, trying to finish a new manuscript quickly and painlessly. Working through the reasons they've hated each other for the past 3 years isn't easy, especially not while writing a romantic novel. While passion and prose push them closer together in the Florida heat, Katrina and Nathan will learn that relationships, like writing, sometimes take a few rough drafts before they get it right. Chapter 6. Nathan. It's minutes until the conference call, and I'm expecting an email from Jen informing me Katrina's called the whole thing off. Of course, I've been expecting that email for the past 2 days. The morning after I met with Jen, while I walked through LaGuardia to my gate, she wrote me confirming Katrina was in. The next day, a conference call was scheduled with Parthenon. The fact that I haven't heard from Katrina herself even once is what has me doubting this will ever happen. The point of this call is ostensibly to discuss ideas, yet the co-authors haven't communicated enough to pick a genre. Granted, I haven't exactly reached out either. I fed myself bullshit reasons whenever I considered contacting her. She could have gotten a new cell number. She could have changed her email. For a fiction writer, I came up with pretty unconvincing excuses. The email doesn't come. I'm on my couch in my condo in Chicago, the white room quiet. It's undecorated and impersonal, except for the books everywhere. Floor-to-ceiling shelves holding my collection of fiction, memoirs, history. They, and the complete absence of anything else noteworthy in my apartment, are reminders of how this writing is everything I am. When I found my craft, I clung and clung and clung to it until it clung to me, intertwined with who I was. And now, I have no way of existing outside of it. Not even Melissa became part of me this way. I've asked myself why I couldn't combine my soul with hers the way I could with writing, the way I knew others could with their spouses. I couldn't. It didn't matter that I genuinely cared for her. I just couldn't. It's taken me too long to recognize what I couldn't have known when I proposed to her, what I didn't even completely understand when I finalized our divorce. I'd mistaken companionship, even chemistry, for love. I found Melissa's work and work ethic inspiring. She had constructive, kind systems for everything in our life, like how we would trade off each night's choice of TV, one of her documentaries for one of my HBO dramas. She was funny in her text messages. She was good in bed and a wonderful friend. Yet, if someone had told me love wasn't just the sum of those parts, but rather the exponent at the end of the equation, I don't think I would have understood what they meant, which has left me with nothing but pages and pages in my empty, empty home. Checking the clock on my phone, I see the time I've been counting down to. I dial into the conference call, putting in the code when the robotic voice instructs me to. I speak into the empty fuzz on the line. Hello? I hate this part of conference calls. I feel like I'm shouting into a well, hoping voices respond from the darkness. Hey, Jen here, my agent says. We're just waiting on Chris and Katrina. Nathan, hello. I recognize my editor's voice. Elizabeth Quirk, publisher of Parthenon Books, plays the eccentric New York editor to perfection. She wears thick plastic glasses and elaborate shawls, and cups of coffee cover her desk. It's an act, or half the picture. She is ruthlessly entrepreneurial, and I respect her despite my frustration that she's rejected my solo proposal, which has landed me in this position with Katrina. "Have you recovered from your tour?" she inquires. "You know me," I respond shortly. "Always eager to start the next book." "Indeed, we love that," Liz replies magnanimously. I know she won't bring up the book Parthenon passed on. We're just going to pretend there's no bad blood between any of us. Not between me and Liz, and certainly not between me and Katrina. "Well," Liz continues, "I can't tell you how excited everyone is in-house about this project." Right on cue, the line beeps. The voice I hear next is Chris's. "Chris and Katrina here," he says. I hate how he strings their names together like it's second nature. I hate how he says his first. Hearing him reminds me of phone calls 4 years ago when he'd given us half-assed ideas, and Katrina and I would only need to exchange one look to know we were going to ignore him. I wait for Katrina's voice. Everyone does, for a second. When it doesn't come, Liz chimes in. "Katrina, I was just telling Nathan and Jen how excited everyone is for this. It'll be the literary event of the year." I have to roll my eyes. Even if we might be the literary event of the year, publishers love to promise you everything. No one ever really knows until the book is on shelves. Chris laughs, and it's gratingly evident he's having the exact opposite reaction. He sounds self-congratulatory, presumptuous. I find my mind straying to my now shelved thriller manuscript. In it, there's this supporting character, this fumbling douchebag of an FBI agent who interferes in the central player's life. I've named him Dean, but character names are easy to change. "Glad to hear it," Chris says. "We all know Nathan and Katrina will deliver something fantastic." Once again, his fiance's name second. When we were both his clients, it invariably went the opposite way. Katrina was the one he showered with praise, with special interest. Even then, it was unmistakably why. I guess it worked in the end. Jen interjects now. If Liz's voice is syrup, Jen's is something stiffer and more refreshing. "I'd love to discuss the timeline. What's Parthenon's want for deadlines and publication?" Thank God for my agent. Of everyone on this call, she's the only one I trust. "For a book this big, I see no reason to delay," Liz says. "So let me turn that question around to the authors." The line falls silent. I find myself waiting, expecting, wondering when Katrina will speak up. The combination of hope and dread makes me drum my pen on the pages of my leather-bound journal. Katrina's voice never comes. The pause expands, and I recognize it's not only Katrina holding out. I could chime in right now. Why I haven't is complex. It's part competition, not wanting to look like the more compliant, eager one in this unhappy reunion. Underneath my petty resistance, though, there is a detestable current of fear. If I speak, I'm pushing through choking curtains of things unsaid 4 bitter years in the past. It was 4 years ago, I remind myself. Grow up, Nathan. I won't throw away my career because I don't want to talk to Kat. Well, I bluster in what I hope comes off confident. We wrote the first draft of Only Once in 3 months. There. I spoke first. Surely Katrina will take her victory and deign to join the discussion. She doesn't. 3 months, Liz repeats. I hear the impatient undercurrent in her voice. She's wondering the same thing. Where the hell is Katrina? Then build in time for revisions, copy edits, promo. Honestly, I'll bump another title and we could have this on our list for next year. But I certainly don't want to rush you. Katrina would like to do this quickly as well, Chris interjects. 2 months is the goal. It wreaks havoc on my blood pressure. Is Katrina even on this call? What if Chris speaks for her throughout the entire process? It would be unbearably tedious, not to mention personally unpleasant. If I have to draft this entire book through Chris, I might finally discover the cure for my love of writing. I could become the investment banker my father wanted me to be. Well, we're on the same page then, Liz confirms, the flint in her voice echoing my own misgivings. I'd love to hear what Katrina and Nathan are thinking for the book's premise. I pause. This would be the point for Katrina finally to enter the conversation. I give her a second. When once more she's silent, something in me snaps. Clearly, Katrina doesn't care about this. Why she's even doing the book is a mystery, but an unimportant one. I do care. Fuck investment banking. If Katrina won't participate, I'll lead. I'll do the whole thing if I have to. Before Only Once came out, we were working on an idea centered on a young couple going through a divorce, I say. It was one of the proposals Katrina and I put together for our follow-up to Only Once before our partnership imploded. It was a good pitch, despite being weirdly prophetic. I wasn't expecting to be divorced by 28. Melissa certainly didn't. Yes, I remember, Liz says. Bringing divorce out of the midlife crisis. I liked it. I think we need more, though. I nod to myself. I thought the same. Of course, we'll, I emphasize the word for one person and one person only, need to develop it. But I like the juxtaposition of young love, the honeymoon phase, with everything falling to pieces. Liz. I sit up sharply. It's the voice I was waiting for. Katrina sounds confident, urgent, the way she does when she's grabbed hold of one of her genius ideas. Or it's grabbed hold of her. It's kind of perverse how Pavlovian my response is. I don't react combatively nor defensively. Instantly, I feel my mind wake up. I'm energized, hungry to put her ideas and mine together. I'd like to play with a formal device, something with timelines where we compare their early relationship to the present. What we expect to be juxtaposition will turn out to be similarity by the end. I process her words. I love the idea, obviously. Katrina's incredibly gifted with conceptual frameworks. Then I process the way she proposed it. Obviously, it's a comment for me to consider, yet she said it. To Liz. It feels like the first move in some sort of chess game. I immediately jot timeline framework into my journal. Yeah, Liz, I say pointedly. I'll play. We'll interrogate the marriage of fact and fiction, the elements of each in every love story. I feel the idea start to excite me despite my irritation with Katrina. Liz, what do you think of the idea that breaking up is itself passionate, just like falling in love? Katrina poses the question like it's innocent. I think it's fascinating, Liz, I reply, catching myself. I want you, Liz, to know that I think that. There's wince-inducing quiet on the other end of the line. Liz undoubtedly understands exactly what's going on. She hears her prodigal co-authors acting like children. Well, you two certainly still work well together, she finally says. I'm not sure how much of her comment is sarcasm. On the one hand, Katrina and I haven't technically spoken to each other. On the other, I can acknowledge how instantaneously we're sparking ideas off each other. I like this, but you want to keep your readership in mind, she adds. I frown, not following. We wrote an affair and only once. Now we're doing a divorce. I don't imagine readers will struggle with the jump. Of course, Liz replies easily. You know why your readers loved only once, though. You write romance. I don't reply, not wanting to encourage the idea. I proposed a breakup book. Then Katrina inserted a very good idea involving a very minimal romance. The more Liz says, the more I see my breakup book filling up with stolen glances, brushing hands, tender embraces, kissing. Even if the ending is bleak, Liz continues, it's not like you gave your characters a happily ever after and only once. The story was full of longing, though. In this book, emphasize this passion you're proposing. Find the romance. Find the romance. Find the romance with Katrina. Yes, I'll just climb Mount Everest when I'm done. Right, Chris speaks up. Definitely. We have to deliver on the brand. I'm silent. So is Katrina. I'm not going to be the one to object. Not if she won't. Jen jumps in, sparing us. I think the most productive thing right now is to let Nathan and Katrina begin their process. Once they have more to work with, we'll get back on the phone and figure out next steps. Yes, of course, Liz replies immediately. Have you two planned your writing retreat yet? Where is it going to be? I decide to hold the line right here. I'm not saying a damn thing. It's on Katrina to field this horrifying question. The silence stretches, the phone line crackling with more than static. Finally, I win. We haven't discussed it, Katrina says, her voice wire sharp. I know you'll have a wonderful time, Liz says, and for the first time I wonder if my editor is not that bright. Call whenever. Thanks, I reply. Bye, Liz, Katrina says. We hang up. It feels like retreating. I'm reeling from the conversation. Katrina and I just pitched the book we're writing together without exchanging one word with each other. We haven't even discussed how we're writing the book. It hits me. We said we would finish the first draft in 2 months. While the difficulty of my working relationship with Katrina is very real, our deadline is very real too. I do the only thing I can think to do. I call Jen. Hey, she says when she picks up, sounding upbeat. I think that went great, don't you? I ignore the question. It's for the best. Can you call Chris and find out Katrina's schedule? When does she want to do this? You don't want to call her yourself? I hear Jen judging me. Not particularly. Nathan, you're going to have to speak to her while you write this book. This isn't writing, I point out. It's scheduling. Can you just tell her I'll meet her wherever, whenever? It won't make a difference. Katrina could want to write this book on the pearly sands of Aruba or in line at the DMV. I'd have an awful time regardless. Jen sighs, loud and laborious. I'll talk to Chris, but I will not babysit you while you refuse to communicate with your co-author. You will go on this retreat, and you will be professional. I understand, I say earnestly. Thanks, Jen. I hang up. Walking upstairs, I replay the conversation in my head. Liz's parting words echo in my ears. I know you'll have a wonderful time. Despite myself, they make me laugh.